begin this news hour in the US, where there's been a second assassination attempt on Donald Trump, less than 50 days before the presidential election. A man is in custody and the FBI is investigating the incident. It happened at the Republican presidential candidate's golf course in West Palm Beach. A witness saw the gunman and managed to take photos of his car. Officers then spotted the vehicle on a highway and stopped the suspect in Martin County near Palm City. That's about 45 minutes drive away. Phil Lavelle reports from West Palm Beach in Florida.
Donald Trump was playing golf here at the Trump International Golf Club in West Palm Beach when the Secret Service said they spotted a gunman in the bushes at the edge of the course and opened fire at him.
The U.S. Secret Service personnel opened fire on a gunman located near the property line, and this matter is under investigation.
The Secret Service agent that was on the course did a fantastic job. What they do is they have an agent that jumps one hole ahead of time to where the president was at. And he was able to spot this rifle barrel sticking out of the fence and immediately engage that individual, at which time the individual took off.
Police say the suspect escaped the scene in an SUV, ID'd by a witness and apprehended later without additional violence. He's been named locally as Ryan Routh.
We took as high a profile felon off the streets as is possible. We did it safely. Nobody else was hurt.
Law enforcement officials said they found an AK-47 rifle with a scope, 2 backpacks with ceramic plating hung on the fence, and a GoPro camera. The Republican presidential candidate was taken to a holding room at the club by the Secret Service. Donald Trump later sent an email to his fundraising list saying, "Fear not, I am safe and well, and no one was hurt." 2 months ago, his ear was grazed by a bullet when a gunman took a shot at him during a campaign speech in Pennsylvania. The head of the Secret Service resigned after that assassination attempt. Donald Trump is now here at his Mar-a-Lago resort, about 15 minutes or so from where the incident took place. As you can see, the road is completely closed off. This was already a high security area. Now security is even tighter. The former president hasn't been seen in public since, although he did send out a fundraising email in which he said his resolve was as strong as ever. And now questions are going to be asked about why the Secret Service let a potential assassin get so close to Trump once again. Phil Lavelle, Al Jazeera, West Palm Beach, Florida.
Well, the White House has released a statement from US President Joe Biden commenting on the work of the Secret Service. He says, "I'm relieved the former president is unharmed. As I have said many times, there is no place for political violence or for any violence ever in our country, and I have directed my team to continue to ensure that the Secret Service has every resource, capability and protective measure necessary to ensure the former president's continued safety." And Trump's rival Kamala Harris has also reacted. The vice president said in a statement, "I'm deeply disturbed by the possible assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump today. As we gather facts, I will be clear, I condemn political violence. We all must do our part to ensure that this incident does not lead to more political violence." OK, let's go to Washington, D.C. now, speak to Shihab Rattansi, who's following the story for us there. So strong words from Harris and Biden. What other political reaction has there been, Shihab?
It's been pretty consistent. It is this condemnation of political violence. We have J.D. Vance, Donald Trump's running mate. "I'm glad President Trump is safe. I spoke to him before the news is public, and he was amazingly in good spirits. Still much we don't know, but I'll be hugging my kids extra tight tonight and saying a prayer of gratitude." Actually, it has been reported that Trump was initially shaken, but actually was joking with his supporters and associates over the phone shortly after, in the ensuing hours after this alleged assassination attempt. Chuck Schumer, Senate Majority Leader, Democrat: "I was just briefed by the acting director of the Secret Service. I applaud the Secret Service for their quick response to ensure former President Trump's safety. There is no place in this country for political violence of any kind. The perpetrator must be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law." And various members of Congress are asking for a briefing from the Secret Service, perhaps as early as Monday. In this particular case, as opposed to what we saw in Butler, Pennsylvania in July, the Secret Service are being commended for taking swift action. However, there are questions, as Phil was suggesting there, as to whether they have the resources they need to keep Donald Trump safe.
Shihab, as we mentioned, 50 days out from the presidential election, how do we anticipate all of this will play out ahead of that vote?
Yeah, it's a little early to tell. I mean, the polls clearly show a very tight race between Trump and Harris. Trump does have a campaign stop. His next campaign stop was due on Tuesday in Flint, Michigan, a town hall event. It's not clear whether those plans will have changed. He is, as Phil mentioned, already fundraising off this of the incident. And in fact, Trump, shortly after that message, did post on his own social media site, Truth Social, "I would like to thank everyone for your concern and well wishes. It was certainly an interesting day!" Exclamation mark. Most importantly, I want to thank the U.S. Secret Service and all of law enforcement for the incredible job done today at Trump International in keeping me as the 45th president of the United States and the Republican nominee in the upcoming presidential election safe. The job done was absolutely outstanding. I'm very proud to be an American. We do know that in the past, the Trump campaign have accused the White House and now the Harris campaign of riling up their supporters by constantly calling Donald Trump a threat to democracy. A lot of interest now in the motivation of this alleged gunman. The social media posts of Routh have been examined, particularly his strong support for Ukraine against Russia, and whether that might be motivating him in some ways, because Donald Trump has been indicating that he wants to immediately try and broker a peace deal between Ukraine and Russia, which suggests that he's not giving that open-ended support for Ukraine that many in the Democratic Party want. But we're still looking for the impact. It's very early yet. It's still only 6 a.m. now on Monday morning here in Washington. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on things. I'm
sure you will indeed, Shihab. Shihab Rattansi there in Washington, D.C. Well, let's look at the implications of all of this with Scott Lucas, who's a professor of American and international politics at the Clinton Institute at University College Dublin. He joins us from Wicklow in Ireland. Scott, a very warm welcome to Al Jazeera. So 4 rounds fired near Donald Trump. What are your key takeaways 2 months after the first attempt on Donald Trump's life?
Well, I think it's instructive to look at what happened after the first attempt on July 13th. And that is the Trump campaign immediately tried to take advantage of that. At that point, they were running against Joe Biden. You might remember Trump immediately after he was nicked in the ear by the fragment of a bullet, pushing aside the Secret Service, "Give me room," and then raising that fist and shouting, "Fight, fight, fight." You might remember the heavily bandaged ear, where you even had sympathizers that were bandaging their ears as well at the Republican National Convention. But they lost that advantage in part because of Trump's rambling 90-minute speech that just lost the crowd at that venue. And then a few days later, Kamala Harris replaced Joe Biden as the Democratic nominee. She got all the media attention and she got all the momentum, which she's had for much of the ensuing 6-7 weeks. Now here we are in September, and the Trump people did not cause this suspect to bring that AK-47 onto the golf course. They didn't motivate that, but they'll try to take advantage again, as you have been hearing. I think the question here is, well, let's explain. Sorry, only a few days ago, remember, Trump had the disastrous debate performance with that takeaway line, "Immigrants are eating our cats and dogs." That has been replaced for the moment by the whole notion of him cheating death, as Fox News put it, the idea of him almost being superhuman in his ability to survive. Can the Trump campaign keep that going? Or do they run into another slip up, another conspiracy theory, another falsehood from their candidate? And can the Harris-Walz campaign, in contrast, get this campaign back onto issues where they're on firmer ground?
Is there a lack of potency also, given that this assassination attempt hasn't appeared to have been caught on camera? Hence, it will not be able to be disseminated as widely as it was the first time around.
Yeah, it won't be, but you will still have, the details of the assassination attempt that will be put out there. We have the drama of the fact that the Secret Service were able to intervene at this point to prevent shots being fired. We had the chase, we had the apprehension. Everybody will be focused now on the details of this gentleman, and we know quite a bit about this suspect from what he posted on social media, but what was his exact motive? So they will try to ride that through, but I take your point. I think as fast-moving as this election is, as unpredictable as it is, as unpredictable, let's be honest, as Donald Trump is, you and I could be talking about an entirely different different topic on the news cycle later this week, let alone next week or by early November in the time of the election.
How do you think all of this, of course, reflects on this pretty long history of political violence in the United States? We've seen multiple occasions over the decades, the killing of high-profile individuals. I mean, where does America stand right now when it comes to taking the potentially fatal heat out of politics 50 days out from the presidential election?
I mean, there is a long history of political violence and assassinations going back to the 19th century. John F. Kennedy was killed a year after I was born. In 1968, we lost Martin Luther King and we lost Bobby Kennedy. We had assassination attempts on President Gerald Ford in the 70s, on Ronald Reagan, wounding him in the 1980s. What's different now is that this era of social media just escalates not only the drama of what has occurred, it can escalate the confrontation. And again, I have to be honest here, it is a tragic and awful irony that the man who has been targeted in two assassination attempts, he has been the one who has whipped up that confrontation with a lot of his rhetoric, at times encouraging violence against hecklers, against groups he doesn't like Black Lives Matter, against the media even. And I'm going to speak to you now, not as an analyst, but very briefly as a person, a native of America, still have ties to the country where I was born and raised. I so hope that we could step back from violence, that we could talk about dialogue rather than division, that we could talk about issues rather than conspiracy theories and falsehoods. But it's my fear that in this most important election since 1865, America simply will go down the route of division and polarization. And that is a very dangerous path to take beyond whoever wins November's election.
All right, very dangerous path indeed. Scott Lucas, Professor of American and International Politics at the Clinton Institute at UCD Dublin. Many thanks.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.